My name is Kurz, and I head up research and insights for Viacom International, which includes networks like MTV, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, and Paramount Channel. Okay, closer?
Yeah, it's okay.
And what that means really is talking to people all over the world and figure out how they look at life and what their attitudes are. And for what I was talking about today, really we looked at youth, so the 12 to 24-year-olds, and we really wanted to understand what their expectations are of the year 2020, both for themselves and for the world overall. And I absolutely love and adore my job.
Yeah, I can imagine. What is MTV Knowing Youth? Can you tell me something more, and not to me, but to the audience,
Sure.
Something more about the project in general?
MTV Knowing Youth overall is our observatory on youth. So that is really what we use to keep on top of developments in general. We don't want to just understand how people think of MTV or even how they think of television or media. We really want to understand how they think of everything, what excites them, what makes them who they are today. And for MTV, we've called this Knowing Youth, the brand, and that's where global projects and local projects really come together so that they all feed off each other. It's really our research observatory community type thing where we bring all of the findings together and then spit it out so that people like them.
How did you pick out the countries and how did you pick out the people? How was that process?
I'll do the second one first.
Okay.
So for people, for this particular survey, we just did a nationally representative online survey across 32 countries. So it was just geographically diverse, ethnically diverse. It was just nationally representative. What we then did is we decided which points come out really strongly. We scripted up an interview, and then we went into people's homes and talked to them about the individual subjects that we've already found in the quant survey. And for the qual piece, we looked at, again, we wanted to showcase the diversity and a variety of people, so that's how we came up with the people there. But really what we asked them is to interpret the stuff that we heard from the majority of people, which is why it works so really well. As for your second question of how we chose the countries, it's really a complicated and combining process. So, of course, what we have in there is the largest countries. We also have a lot of the countries in there where we have significant business. And then we wanted to fill out the holes. So that's why we went to sorry, actually not in this. Oh, we did. We went to Nigeria and went to Egypt because we wanted to understand, Egypt particularly, what was the impact of the Arab Spring, how did that work, and I could talk to you for an hour about that. But that's why we then, so a few countries in Africa, we added New Zealand and Australia, and we added a few more countries in Europe. Unfortunately, Europe has so many countries that
Yes.
we can't do them all. I would love to, but that is where really what we're now doing is we're taking some of the questions and editing them down together and then try and expand it out further into additional countries.
How did it look like production-wise? So, okay, you had teams that went from country to country, or did you have like teams that were in a couple of countries and did their work there?
You mean for the
And
video?
how long, and how long did it last?
That last question, I don't know the answer to.
Okay.
But so basically, we worked with an agency based in London, and they had two teams that went into the individual things, and I went along to some of them, not all of them, but some of them. And what we chose to do is every time they've done interviews in a city, we had a call, all of us together, basically to download what was the big learning so that we can build on the expertise from one to the other. And then it all came back into London and it was all edited together, and that's how we ended up. But it took a while.
Okay.
So it was not a quick process.
Okay. How is technology changing young people?
A lot. What the interesting thing is, though, is that old people like me look at them and we call them the digital natives, right? Because they know everything.
Yeah.
And even more so, if you look at the really young ones, like the 4-year-olds today, they know how to play with an iPad before they know how to tie their shoelaces. So that has always been there for them. So we call them digital natives. They don't call them that themselves because to them it's just there. It's always been there. They know how to do it. That doesn't make me an expert in it. And they actually a lot of times get quite annoyed when older people ask them to come on and fix my computer because I'm like, well, hang on, I didn't learn this either. So it's about that. So really what technology is it doesn't make them who they are, it allows them to be who they want to be. And it makes their lives easier and faster, but sometimes they are also starting to see the negative impacts of that because there's less human interaction. They're talking to their friends a lot more in the digital way rather than in any other way, and they're starting to notice that, and they're starting to be very aware of how they want to deal with that. So absolutely, technology changes all of us all the time,
course.
and the rapid change that they've gone through. I mean, there's a new iPhone every year, and you have to relearn it again every year.
You have to have it.
And absolutely, and the biggest one.
Yeah, of course.
But so it has massive impacts, but it's not one thing that it impacts. It's really all across the place.
What happened with like I have a similar question like the one that you heard from the audience. So what happened with MTV? How did it become more reality and less music channel, and why?
I'm not really the right person to answer that question, and I'm sure we can find somebody who can. But all I really can say is that music has always been at the very core of what we do, and it's really all about entertaining our audience. It's about youth entertainment, and music is part of that, and it's at the very core of what we do in our music channels, in a lot of our content and programs, and we believe it really is there, and it lives in our brand.
Is the old MTV generation still your target? Are you going to do something with them? Like with me, I'm 30, so...
Well, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not 30, I'm older than that. I'm a lot older than that.
Okay.
But the target for MTV has always been youth, deliberately so. And right now that's defined as the 12 to 24-year-olds, really.
Wow.
We do obviously go older than that because, you know, everybody likes our stuff. But there is also the spin-off channels that we have, like VH1, but also like MTV Classics, MTV Rocks. A lot of those types of channels target older audiences. And also, because we're Viacom, so really what it is, we start with Nick Jr. on the very young end, then we go to Nickelodeon, then we go to MTV and a whole bunch of other MTVs, and then we go on to Comedy Central and Comedy Central Extra.
So
and
that's
then the
perfect,
Paramount channel.
Yeah.
So it really is intended to move people through that portfolio.
While watching your presentation and listening to the things that young people say and how they see the future, I was under the impression that they see things quite optimistically.
Yes.
So my question is, do we become more pessimistic with age, or like?
I think we've always been pessimistic. Well, I certainly have, and this is really one of the interesting things. Is we work a lot with some generational experts, and the person that came up with the word millennial generation is one of the people that we work with a lot. And they wrote this book about the 4 cycles of generations, how it always goes in a circle. And Generation X just is a lot more cynical, a lot more pessimistic. It always has been, and it always will be. As that goes, so you're very much at the cusp, but as that goes from Generation X to millennials, that just seems to dissipate, and it just becomes a lot more pessimistic. Now, there's probably some truth in what you suggested as well. We probably do get more pessimistic as we get older, but on top of that, we absolutely believe that the millennials are going to keep their positivity for much longer in a much stronger way than.
Do you think that the millennials are aware of like the wars, the economic instability, or do you just think they know about it, but they're not getting into that as much as we do?
I think it's...
And that's why they're like so optimistic, and because they're like getting all these information, but not really, getting them.
I think you're right in that they are getting less or information differently, but I don't think that's the reason for the optimism. I really think that they are absolutely convinced that if they aren't optimistic and happy and make things work, then they have failed. So while to me, being negative or having a pessimistic outlook, that's just part of life. To them, it absolutely feels like that would be failure. And even failure is actually the wrong word, because there is no such thing as failure anymore, because nowadays we're trying everything, and everything is beta, and we throw things against the wall and we see what sticks. I've lost my train of thought.
It's fine. I asked you if they are aware or not aware of things that are going on in the world, and that's why.
I think they are. I think they are very much aware, but they're getting their news through different sources, and they're also engaging with it very differently, because a lot of it comes through the people around them, both friends, family, but also through people they know online. So the way they consume news is very different.
What surprised you maybe the most when you interacted with youngsters and millennials?
every time, what surprises me the most is how similar they are across the world.
Really?
That is the one thing, because really you'd like to think that a French teenager is very different from a South African one.
Yeah, of course.
And there are differences, there clearly are, but there are so many more similarities than there are differences. And even the countries that have had less time to travel in that direction, talk about Russia, for example, they start out on a different level, but the direction of travel is exactly the same. And countries that have had less time are so much faster traveling in that direction, most of them anyway. And that is a really, really interesting finding.
What will you do with all the data you collected, and what was the goal of MTV Knowing Youth?
Well, the goal overall is for us to be and remain the experts in youth, because that's what we want to be. And we're talking to all of our partners, advertising, cable advertisers, cable and satellite operators about all of this. And really the idea is for everybody who wants to know about youth, work with youth, and target youth to come and talk to us, and we will share and work with them to make that happen. We also do a lot of external conversation and communication like this presentation. So we have a great blog called womeninsights.viacom.com, and that really is the platform where we talk about some of those findings in much more detail. And everybody's welcome to join, to look at that and join us in that conversation.
What is your next big project?
Ooh, there's 4.
Oh, cool, okay.
There's 4 at the moment, because what we're doing at the moment is we're working on one for each of our big brands, so one for Nickelodeon, one for MTV, one for comedy, and then another one where we've already finished it in the US, that's really across all of the brands. The next big one that's coming out is a Nickelodeon project, and that's part of our Nickelodeon Kids and Family GPS series, which is the equivalent of Knowing Youth, and it's all around how parenting is changing and how the shape and the decision-making process within families has changed a lot over the next few years.
That's the first. The second one?
Oh, sorry. Then there's Comedy Central, and Comedy Central, by the way, I just have to brag a little bit.
Of course.
With comedy, we just won an SMR award for the best methodology in a research project.
Congratulations.
Thank you. With our Power of Laughter project, which was all around how advertising works in comedy content versus other content, and how there's a lot more engagement in that. But the next project on comedy is all around fans, and what does that mean? The MTV project I can't tell you yet because that's the secret.
Okay.
And then the cross-brand project, what we're working on is how people find out about new TV shows and how they're communicating with each other, and then how they go about watching them, and also what are the hurdles to watching those. And we've done a US version of that was published 2 weeks ago, I think, and now we're looking to do it we're doing an international version of that.
Is something is Croatia on your map in either way? I don't know, like.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah,
it is.
you're here, obviously. Okay.
Exactly. We have MTV Adria.
Yeah, I know.
We have Comedy Central Extra here, so it definitely is. But from a research perspective, it is difficult.
Too small.
No, it's not.
No?
I've done research in both, actually, Serbia, Slovenia, and Croatia before, but it's really difficult to justify for one particular project to come and do. So what we're really looking to do is take a few projects together, take the key questions, and then come and do those, and then try and localize it in various ways. But I was just talking to somebody earlier at a university in Belgrade about how maybe we can work together and do things like that. So all of those are interesting opportunities.
Cool. And my last question is, what is your 2020 future, and how do you see it as a not so young person, as the ones we saw during your presentation video?
I don't even know what year it is anymore. I hope that I'll be doing still very much the same thing that I'm doing today, because I absolutely love talking to people and finding out about where they are and what they're doing. So hopefully we'll have a lot more brands in a lot more countries, and I get to do research in Croatia as well.
Great. So you're not like it's not like not annoying but stressful. You're not dealing only with data. You're dealing with.
Oh no, it's a combination.
Yeah.
We really do three big groups of things. One of them is the straightforward data, like the ratings, all of that type of stuff. On the very other end is what we're doing here, which is again data, but a lot of qualitative information as well. And then in the middle is the more strategic insight stuff, like pilot testing, talking about content, talking about our brands and all of those things. And between those three, and of course managing a global team, that really keeps it very interesting. So I'm loving it.
Great. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
And yours.
See you around.